On behalf of the Milano and Summers family, I would like to thank all of you for being here today. This afternoon, we gather together to do something that is so hard, something none of us ever wanted to do. We gather together to find a way to say goodbye. Today is a time of tears. Today we may have questions. In many ways, today is an impossible day. But because of this harsh reality, in times like this, we gather together as human beings. We gather together to lean on each other in a time of hurt. But I believe that Ron would tell us that we don't only lean on each other today, but we can lean on God today as well. However, we also gather today not just to mourn our loss, but we also gather to celebrate life, to celebrate the lives of Ron, Josh, and Patricia. So thank you for being here with us today. It means so much to the family to have you here. As we begin, God has promised in His Word that whenever we gather together in His name, He will gather with us. So let us ask God to be here with us on this impossible day. Dear Holy God, we need you now. You promised to be with us when we feel like the world is falling apart. You promised to help us and to hold us in our hour of need. And we are there now, Lord. Today is an impossible day. We may feel cursed with the question of what if, or the thought of I should have. But those thoughts and those questions, they don't help us. We need your help today. Be near to us, Lord Jesus. And as we mourn, may we find healing. May we find help from you today. Grant us hope and peace in the midst of our trouble. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. At this time, I'd like to invite Pastor Mike Menard to come and to share the life sketches for Ron, Josh, and Patricia.
Thank you all for coming out today. Ronald Lee Milano was born on August 31st, 1953 in Denver, Colorado, to Esther and Donald Milano. He died in a car accident near Lawrence, Kansas on Wednesday, April 3, 2024, and he was 70 years old. Now, those are the facts. They don't tell you what an interesting, rare, and beautiful man he was. And as you know, his son, Joshua Zachary Milano, and his daughter-in-law, Patricia Ann Milano, were with Ron in the car when they were struck head-on, and all three passed away. We loved all three, and we feel their loss deeply. Ron was raised on an acreage just outside of Fruita, Colorado, where he learned how to ride horses, how to forage for wild edible plants, and most importantly to him, where he learned how to play the guitar. He loved to play the guitar. He married the love of his life, Cheryl, on June 3rd, 1979, in a small ceremony in Nevada, Missouri. Ron reminded me over and over again that it's not Nevada, Missouri, it's Nevada. After spending some time living in Colorado, the couple moved to Nevada, Missouri, and this is where they worked, made friends, and raised their children, Amy and Jennifer and Josh. And after getting their 3 children through high school, the couple relocated to Lincoln to be closer to their growing number of grandchildren who they loved. Ron spent some time working at St. Elizabeth Hospital in Lincoln before he retired. Again, Ron loved playing his guitar any chance he could get, and being a self-taught guitar player was something he was so proud of. And his favorite music to play was anything gospel and anything John Denver. To say he loved John Denver is to miss the point. He adored John Denver and had most of his songs memorized. And he was shocked if anyone didn't also have them memorized. He asked me every week if I knew a certain John Denver song, and he was disappointed if I didn't. Many may not know that Ron loved martial arts and took classes any chance he could get. His heroes were Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Chuck Norris, and Jean-Claude Van Damme. And he would frequently make his children watch those stars in his favorite films while they patiently waited for them to end so that they could get back to watching a Disney film. Ron leaves behind his 2 sisters, Cindy Warden and Sharon Gilbert, 2 daughters, Amy and Jennifer, 5 grandchildren, Tristan, Aaron, Brennan, Max, and Olivia. But he also leaves behind various family members and, of course, innumerable friends. So thank you all who could be here today. And Joshua Zachary Milano was born to Ron and Cheryl on August 27th, 1984 in Fort Scott, Kansas. Josh was in the car with his dad, Ron, and wife, Patricia, there in Lawrence, Kansas. And they were coming home after a trip to Nevada, in the town where Josh was raised and graduated from high school in 2003. Josh was 39 years old when he passed away. Josh had, of course, 2 sisters, Amy and Jennifer, who he often said he took delight in tormenting and driving them crazy. And it would seem he was often successful at that. Josh married the love of his life, Patricia, on May 5, 2017 in Nevada, Missouri. And they had a dog that they adored named Bear. And Bear also died as a result of the crash. To say Josh and Patricia loved Bear would be an extreme understatement. Josh loved the outdoors. If it involved collecting knives, wearing outdoor camo, and traveling to see extended family, he was there, ready to go. He also inherited his mom's love of cooking, and he loved to experiment with new recipes. And I can say that some of those recipes were amazing. A number of family members have commented how Josh and his father, Ron, were best friends. Together, they loved thrift shopping, and they collected or scooped up anything they could find for a bargain, or better yet, for free, especially if it involved food and trinkets. And Ron would come to church sometimes, and he would bring something that he thought for sure that I needed. And he found, for his favorite price for free, this pocket watch, and I still carry it around. Josh loved family get-togethers. He loved the varieties of food that he would find there. Josh once said Patricia, his wife, was the coolest thing to happen to him. And Patricia said, "Yeah, you better say that." Patricia Ann Milano was born on November 18, 1990 in Salt Lake City. She was only 33 when she passed away. Patricia graduated from North Star High School here in Lincoln in 2010. But hands down, her proudest achievement happened a mere 2 weeks before she died, when she earned an associate's degree in business administration from American Intercontinental University. She was so proud of that, and we were proud of her. I was there the day she gave her heart to Jesus. We saw her and Josh at the Lincoln Children's Zoo. And she asked me, as she was sitting there looking at the turtles, she said, "Pastor Mike, how do you give yourself to Jesus?" Well, there on the bench, she gave her heart to Jesus Christ. And she and Josh, along with Ron, were active members at the New Creation Community Seventh-day Adventist Church, and we adore them all. Patricia loved helping with the gardening ministry there and helping Michelle Nash teach the juniors. And she loved to read, to watch movies, to play with her dog Bear. Most recently, she was learning how to sew and was considering signing up for a college baking class. And Josh told her he thought that was a great idea. She recently wrote a book, and I'm hoping it will be published soon. And let it be said, she had the biggest smile I've ever seen, and she lit up a room with her laugh. Patricia knew what it was like to struggle. She knew abuse, homelessness, and hunger. But she had the tenacity to succeed in spite of the odds against her. She was honored at being a volunteer at Bryan Health Hospital, and she loved her role assisting patients when they were lost and unsure of where to go. And she leaves behind her mother, Carol, an uncle, Gary, and 2 sisters-in-law, Amy and Jennifer. If I may insert here, reason number 5,349, not that I've counted because I bet there's more than that, of reasons why I adore Jesus. it would be this, and that is that this day is not about saying goodbye to dear family, to dear friends. This is merely a see you later. See you later, because I believe with all my heart that the very first thing that their conscious mind will realize is that Jesus is coming. I can't wait to get to heaven. I can't wait to receive one of Patricia's bear hugs. Sometimes I could hardly breathe when she would hug. I can't wait to talk about the cool knives that are in heaven with Josh, because he's convinced that they'll be there. And to play some John Denver songs with Ron. And if you say that there won't be John Denver songs in heaven, well, Ron would have had some words for you. We mourn them today. We thank all the family, all the friends for being here to honor them, to celebrate them today.
Sin not in part, but the whole is nailed to the cross, and I bear it no more. Praise the Lord, praise the Lord, oh my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. And Lord, haste the day when my face shall be sight, the clouds be rolled back as a scroll, the trumpet shall sound, and the Lord shall descend so it is well with my soul. It is well through the storm I am held. It is well with my soul. It is well, God has won, Christ prevailed. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul.
Thank you, Vanessa, for that beautiful song. What a fitting song chosen today by the family. It is well, the original hymn was a song born from tragedy, born from loss. Horatio Spafford losing his children, and then pens those words, "It is well with my soul." I visited with Jennifer after the tragedy that took Ron, Josh, and Patricia. And Jennifer asked me, "Have you ever done this before? Have you ever done a funeral for 3 people at once?" And I confessed, never. And I hope to never do it again. This is a tough day. As has been shared, and as everyone knows, Ron and Joshua and Patricia were driving home, coming back to Lincoln, when the unthinkable happened. A truck crossed over the lane and collided with their car, and we lost 3 precious people. So here we are today, trying to make sense of a senseless tragedy. And so many emotions swirl in us right now. Questions like, how could this happen? Thoughts like, this isn't fair. Or maybe even the thought, how do I go on now? Well, I stand before you today, and I'm not sure that I have the best of answers. But I know where to look for answers on an impossible day like today. In a book that isn't afraid to talk about the terrible things that happen in our world. When Jennifer and I chatted, she mentioned the book of Job inside the Bible to me. And I think that's certainly a fitting story for today. For in that book, Job loses all of his family, except his wife. And one day he loses his children, he loses his wealth, and then he loses even his health. And of course, like any human, Job asks the questions that we ask. Why? And he tries to make sense out of something so painful and so much loss. And maybe we feel like Job today. Well, Job had 3 friends that came to help him after this loss. And the Bible says that they sat with him for 3 days and said nothing. At 7 days. They sat with him for 7 days, as 3 friends did, said nothing. Today you may come and you may not know what words to say to the family. And that's okay. Because sometimes it's the ministry of presence that is needed the most. And quiet support is so powerful. But I've been asked to share something and to speak today on behalf of these 3 precious people. Well, Job looked for answers, and eventually in the story, God shows up, and he spoke to Job in his pain. And God didn't try to explain away Job's pain. Instead, God reminded Job who he is. You see, in the Bible story, we learn that God dreamed a dream for this planet. And that dream included you. It included me. That dream included Ron and Josh and Patricia Milano. But God's dream for this world did not include what we do this afternoon. One thought kept racing through my head since I heard about the accident. And that thought over and over again came to me. It wasn't supposed to be like this. You see, God's original dream did not include car accidents. His dream didn't include horrible phone calls, sharing unthinkable news. God's plan for our world originally did not include pain, heartache, or funerals. It wasn't supposed to be like this. We weren't supposed to be here trying to find a way to go on. Trying to find a way to say goodbye. We were never meant to. The Bible says that God put eternity in our hearts. We were built to last. So how do we? How do we manage today? How do we move on when we can't imagine the next step? Today we may struggle with the questions, with the thoughts that it wasn't supposed to be like this. God's original dream was for a perfect world, full of beauty and love, the love that is exemplified in the family that mourns today. But the Bible tells us that this world that started off perfect didn't stay perfect. Humans disobeyed God. They chose to trust themselves over God. And as a result, sin entered our world. And with sin, our world was plunged into chaos. And his once perfect world became a planet where terrible things happen. So what would God do? His plan is ruined. His dream turned into a nightmare. And this past month may have felt like a nightmare to some of you that we'd all like to wake up from. So what would God do with this world? What would he do with us humans? Well, I'm here to tell you that God would not give up on us. The answer that I find in this book for days like today is that God would not give up on his dream. And I think that Ron, Josh, and Patricia would tell us all not to give up. Not to give up on God's dream. We have Patricia's urn here with us today, and there's a Bible verse on it that I think is very fitting for her. It's Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 to 30. Jesus speaking, and he says, "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." As Pastor Mike shared, Patricia lived a hard life, but she never gave up. She worked hard, graduated from high school, and yes, even earned her associate's degree in business administration. And she gave her heart to Jesus. She let Jesus take that yoke from her. And she walked with him. In spite of this hard world, Patricia never gave up. She believed in God and believed in God's dream. The verse on Josh's urn is a very famous verse from the Old Testament, Psalm 23, that reads, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in the green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." God is with us even today. "Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a place for me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Josh, too, didn't have the easiest of lives, but Jennifer remembers her brother as being a survivor through it all. Josh and Patricia were married. They were members of the New Creation Church. And I remember seeing them. They would come to our outreach events here at Piedmont. They would be involved. They would help out. It was great to see them at Light Up the Dark when we had that event each year. They trusted in God even in this broken world. They believed in God, and they believed that God didn't give up on us. Instead, when God's world was broken, he had a plan for it. That plan involved sending Jesus to come into our world, to die for our sin, and to show us the way back home, to show us how we can be a part of a better world, because it wasn't supposed to be like this. God started with a perfect world, and one day it will be perfect again. And I'm here to tell you, Ron believed that with all his heart. And he lived it, and he shared it with others. I enjoyed hearing Ron play his guitar. He'd come to soup supper and he'd sing songs. I did not realize he was a karate fan until recently. That is very cool. But I did know he was a hard worker. And I think what he loved the most was sharing about Jesus. He loved talking about Jesus, and he'd even share books and DVDs with people about Jesus. He'd even share them with me. Pastor, you gotta read this. Okay, I'll read it, Ron. You gotta watch this. This is so cool. Okay. I am honored to share one of Ron's favorite verses with you today that speaks about Jesus not giving up on us. It comes from the Gospel of John, chapter 14, verses 1 to 3. Jesus speaking to his disciples the night before he was betrayed and crucified, he says these amazing words: "Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go and prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also." Can we find hope and peace in this troubled and broken world? I think Ron would tell us, yes, we can. And he would tell us that God can give us peace, because Ron knew it wasn't supposed to be like this. He knew that when he lost the love of his life. But Ron believed that one day it will never be like this again. Because Ron believed that Jesus is coming again to put an end to pain, to put an end to suffering. So Ron, Josh, and Patricia, for them today is not the end of the story. They believe that Jesus is going to fix all that has gone wrong on this world. So on days like today, I think Jesus would come very close to each of us. And if we listen, if we calm the storm that rages within, I believe we'll hear God say to us, even if it's a whisper, "It wasn't supposed to be like this, but hold on. I've taken care of it. I've paid the price. I'm fixing this. I'm coming again to take you to be with me. And it will not be like this anymore." The Bible ends sharing this hope with us. In Revelation, it tells us a hope that can keep us going when these times are hard. Revelation 21 and verse 3. "And I heard a loud voice from heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people. God himself will be with them and be their God. And God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There shall be no more death, nor sorrow, nor crying. There shall be no more pain. For the former things have passed away. It wasn't supposed to be like this. And soon, it will never be like this ever again. For soon Jesus will return and we will all be back together on that day, never to be parted again. Friends, it will be the greatest family reunion ever. So yes, today is not goodbye. Today is just, we'll see you soon. Ron, we'll see you soon. Josh, we'll see you soon. Patricia. For they knew and they wanted to be a part of that special world where God's original dream becomes a reality. And I'm here to tell you that they would want each of you to be there too. So I encourage you, I encourage each of us to get to know the best friend of Ron, Josh, and Patricia. Get to know the Jesus Christ who wants to be with you. It will not only help us on days like today, but it will ensure that we get to be a part of God's dream and be with Ron, Patricia, and Josh again someday and forevermore in a world that it was supposed to be like all along. At this time, the family has chosen a special song to share with us by Renee Shecker. God will take care of you. At this time, the family would like to share some memories with all of us. And so we're going to begin, and we're going to be a little less formal at this point in time. If you're someone who would like to share a memory, a thought, something that makes you smile as you think about our loved ones today, you can come up here to the stage and speak from the microphone. If that is too intimidating, that's all right. I got a microphone. I can come out and find you, so you can raise your hand or stand up. But we want to invite Jennifer to come and share first, and then we'll just take some time to share some memories.
Thank you all for your support and comfort during this time. Thank you for coming and near and far to support my sister, our kids, nieces, nephews, aunts, cousins, and other family members. I didn't think prior to April 3rd, 2024, that this was what I would be doing a month into the future. But here I am in front of you, experiencing this deep grief and responsibility to memorialize the life of my father, Ronald Lee Milano, my brother, Joshua Zachary Milano, and my sister-in-law, Patricia Ann Milano. First, I would like to commend all of you that were involved in making this memorial service possible. Thank you to the pastoral staff. Thank you for the musicians. Thank you to Piedmont Park Seventh-day Adventist Church for hosting and being my church family. Thank you to the New Creation Church for assisting in Joshua and Patricia's apartment cleanup. Thank you to Peggy and those that organized the food, and to all that contributed to the food preparations that we will partake after the service. I also want to thank those that were involved in helping my father, my brother and sister-in-law while they were alive in managing their difficult life challenges. First off, my brother Joshua Zachary Milano, at 39 years of age, as Pastor Menard had said, was a survivalist of sorts, and he was at his best when he was generous and giving to his nieces and nephews. He liked the Pittsburgh Steelers, although I don't know why. He collected knives and camo. He was a foodie of sorts and enjoyed eating out with Dad. He would come over to my house and also eat all my food too. He knew where to get thrifty things at thrift stores, and he knew where to go when it came to the needs for the community resources. He was really close to our mom and would probably be considered a mama's boy. But while he was with Dad, he was inseparable, and he was Dad's buddy and BFF, and they would go to all the places and do all the things. In fact, even upon his death, he was with Dad, who next to Patricia was his most important person. He married Patricia on May 5th, 2017. They didn't have any children, but had several dogs over the years. One in particular was their dog Bear, who also passed away in their accident. Josh loved Patricia dearly and would care for her much like he did for our mom. Josh knew what it was like to struggle, and I think that is what attracted and connected him with Patricia. He took care of Patricia, whether it was cooking or finding her survival life-needed resources. They both were survivalists together, and although they came from challenging backgrounds, together they made the best of it. Josh was introverted and introspective. He was sensitive at times, but learned ways to manage, and he had a compassion within him, like giving when he had the ability to do so. You usually found him sitting in the background of events and family functions, observing people and the environment around him, but he always wanted to be included and was thankful for anything that he was given. I think when he was at his best self, he had a caring heart and truly loved being an uncle to his nieces and nephews. I remember when he received some money from a settlement, he helped Dad and Mom tag their car. He also bought the kids' school supplies. The last thing that I do remember is that he gave our dear Olivia a little bit of money for her birthday. When Patricia, our sister-in-law, came into our family, it was around 2015, and her smile was contagious, and she could light up a room with her laughter. She was somewhat private about her past and focused mostly on the present moment, of which I encourage for most to live the 10-80-10 rule. Live only 10% in the past, 80% in the present, and 10% in the future. You would always have more enjoyment and fulfillment in life. And that is what I think of when I see Patricia. She loved coming to family functions, participating in family activities. She was the ultimate survivalist and taught Josh the true MacGyver street skills. She was known to move around from place to place and experience a great deal of cultural experiences. She lived humbly and was thankful for what she received. She loved her nieces and nephews and did the best she could with the resources she acquired. She had a passion for animals and loved her sweet little mixed Chihuahua bear. She wrote a book and was awaiting for it to get published. I assumed it was about her challenges and life experiences. Throughout her rough background challenges she confronted, she pursued a college degree that focused on accounting, and she also volunteered at a hospital. She too connected closely to my dad and was considered another daughter sister to our family. I think Patricia, at 33 years of age, was on her way to finding herself, and even though her life was ended so short, I was quite proud of the accomplishments she made. And yes, Patricia, if I could talk to you today, you were loved and you were one of us. My father, Ronald Milano, who was the head of the trio, he was humorous, amusing, empathetic, strong-willed, and full of sass. Telephone conversations would start with name, number, and serial number, and what do you want? He was known for his shirtless front yard John Denver guitar performances and Kung Fu Karate, Bruce Lee, and Walker Texas Ranger outdoor demonstrations for all to see. My siblings and I, along with cousins and grandkids, loved eating his freshly made cast iron skillet tortillas. I'll miss the endless Gay Johnson restaurant stories. I'm gonna miss hearing about his rides with his horse Brown Eyes. I'm gonna miss the reminder of how Hispanic Indian we all are, and don't forget his love for his grandkids, nieces, and nephews. You guys were his pride and joy, and he loved you very, very much. I don't think a kid around didn't think of him as Grandpa or Uncle Ron. He either annoyed you with his talkative demeanor, or you were entertained by his slapstick humor. But you were usually laughing with him, at him. He never had an enemy, and if you did get annoyed with his antics, he probably talked your ear off until you found your escape plan. I'm going to miss the give me a quarter lines, the endless amounts of change he would gather up and hide in his sock drawers, the don't worry about me, Jennifer, I'm doing just fine, don't talk about it, just do it, usually referencing to doing the dishes, sneaking extra ice cream scoops or cake bites when he knew Amy and Cindy and I would get onto him for it. He would just laugh and you could see the twinkle in his eye and do it despite what he had been told what to do or not to do. Our father worked hard. He worked hard for his family. Being half Hispanic, half Caucasian is a very tough world to be in. But he worked really, really hard to provide for us. He made sure that Amy, Josh, and I had all of our basic needs met. And he would say, I'm probably not the best dad, the smartest dad, but I want you to know I love you, Jennifer. I love you, Josh. And I love you, Amy. And I'm doing the best I can for you kids and your mom. If there's anything that I can leave with you today when it comes to my dad, Ronald, Joshua, and sister-in-law Patricia, that time is precious. It's my #1 love language. My anxiety often correlates with not enough time to do all the things and see all the people. Go on vacations. Get together with family on dinners. Cherish each other, because no one ever knows truly when those people won't be here anymore. Grief is the price we pay for the gift of love. Hugs and love to you all, and thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Hello. I'm Cindy. I'm his sister. And I think I knew Ron probably the longest because we grew up together, so 65 years I knew the guy. Ron was 5 when I came on the scene, and he was a good big brother. My parents lost 2 daughters between me and Ron, Rose and Esther. And so my parents were pretty happy that I lived. And to be honest with you, we're quite the tight little family. When I came up with is my brother, my hero, because I saw this meme on the Facebook. It said, make it a point to hold the kid with the IEP feel good. And I've always did that. You know, growing up with Ron, I knew that he was special, and I always knew that since we were so tight that I had to protect him. I don't know why I took that on, but I just did. I always made sure nobody took advantage of him, because what he did was extra hard. And so when he accomplished something, that was his Mount Everest. And I found this at the house. It says the Grand Junction high school diploma. This might as well have been a PhD, because that's how hard he worked for this thing. When I was about 3, I realized that Ron had trouble because he had been to school, so he must have been about 8, when the teacher said Ron couldn't learn. And my mom said, yeah, he can. And so what she would do is she would do flashcards with Ron, because we had to repeat them and repeat them and repeat them. And then after that, guess what we did? We repeated them some more. But he made it through. He got his high school diploma. When we were cleaning out his room, we found a lot of driver's licenses. Lots. I think he saved every driver's license he ever had. And the reason why he saved them is because he had such a hard time getting his driver's license. I remember that the first time he took his test, he came home very dejected, very sad. I said, what happened? I didn't pass. Went back the second time. I said, what happened, Ron? Didn't pass. I said, Ron, let's make some flashcards. And so we studied the signs, we studied the test questions, and the third time, I don't know if he really passed or if the man was just tired of seeing him, but he got his driver's license. He was so proud of the fact that he got his driver's license. I remember when he was 17, and I was 5 years younger, so I must have mean I was about, I don't know, 12. Yeah, 12, 13. He saved up enough money. He used to buck hay. And I don't know how many people know what bucking hay is. That's a pretty hard job for a little guy. But we bought a 90 Suzuki motorcycle. And for 2 little Hispanic kids to ride around on a 90 Suzuki motorcycle was pretty special. So the other thing that we loved is we had horses. We had 3 horses. Sharon's going to talk about her horse, so I won't talk about her horse. But we had a Gallicino. I don't know if you guys know what a Gallicino is. It's a smaller horse. It's not a big horse. But we also had a full-size horse. His name was Chico. But I had a 3/4 size horse, and his name was Brown Eyes. But Ron loved Brown Eyes because Brown Eyes was spirited, he was feisty, and he was mean. And I think that's the reason my dad got Brown Eyes for me. But Chico was a nice horse, but he didn't gallop fast. He just held his own pace. And he would say, trade with me. You take Chico and I'll take Brown Eyes. And sometimes I'd have to let him because Brown Eyes was pretty fast and he was pretty mean. But Ron could handle him. Ron would just run him down until he would behave, and then he'd give him back to me. We also loved lots of animals. We loved our dogs, our cats. But one of our favorite things to do was to play cowboys and Indians, cops and robbers, and Chico and Brown Eyes would run up and down the ditch banks. And we just had the greatest time. He really was my best friend, and he really was my hero, because he always did what he said he was going to do. The thing that Ron wanted most in life was a family, and we talked a lot about that. He said, you know, if I ever meet somebody, he said, what I want to do is have kids. I want to have children. And I said, well, Ron, that's what I want to do too. And so he worked so hard. And you guys may have heard these stories before. His first employer was a guy by the name of Gay Johnson. And he loved Gay Johnson's wife, Lucille. And Lucille loved him too. How many of you guys heard a Gay Johnson story? If you ever go to Western Colorado, you'll see these little truck stops. And they're called Gay Johnson's truck stops all over the Western Colorado. And Ron just loved it. when I moved back here a couple of years ago, Ron moved in with me. So he was more than my brother. He was my roommate. And we had a lot of things to work out as roommate, leasee relationship. And but the favorite time of day for me, because he got up late, and then he ran around with Josh and Patricia. They had their little circuit of places to go and places to do. But in the evenings, before I'd go to bed, we'd have our 1-hour BS session. And we talked about Gay Johnson. We talked about the family. We talked about Uncle John. We talked about, this guy loved to talk. And it seemed to be like right when my favorite TV shows was on, he'd say, do you remember that? I said, yeah, okay, we'll talk about that. Ruby Ann was, I don't know, you guys probably don't know, we had a cousin named Ruby Ann. Of course, he had to tell me what was all going on with Ruby Ann. But of course, one of the things he really liked to talk about was this gal named Connie. And I enjoyed listening to them. I just started a new relationship, and Ron and my boyfriend, Dean, got along pretty well. And I think that motivated him a lot to look up Connie and see if he could get something going with her. Because he told me that of all things he missed since Cheryl had passed away was his relationship with Connie. We just reminisced, and I lost my husband, John. He lost his wife, Cheryl. And I would remind him about his weight. I'd say, Ron, really you could lose a little bit of weight here. And Ron, you really shouldn't have so much sugar. And Ron, do you think it's such a good idea for you to be eating that? And his response to me was always, oh, don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. You need to gain weight. You're too skinny. One day after one of our conversations about his diet, he came home with a box of ice cream sandwiches. There were 6 ice cream sandwiches in the box, and he put them in the freezer. I said, Ron, I'm going to tell on you. I'm going to call either Amy or Jenny and say you're eating ice cream sandwiches. Oh, yeah? He says, you go ahead. Tell him. He ate 1 ice cream sandwich, then he looked at me. Look what I got. I got another ice cream sandwich. Then, guess what? I ate a 3rd ice cream sandwich. He got to 4 and 5, and I don't know if he really was enjoying this, but he pulled out number 6 out of the box just to show me that he could eat 6 ice cream sandwiches. And then he said something profound to me. He goes, Cindy, I love you, but I want you to know something. Just let me eat what I want so I can die happy. And he did. He did what he wanted. So if you see a little brown Kia with a sticker on the back of it that says, I love someone with lupus, think of my brother. He was my friend, my roommate, and my brother, and my hero.
Thank you, Cindy. And we'll just let people kind of keep coming up as you'd like, okay?
Well, I kind of miss my brother right now, because if I had to sing up front with him, I always hid behind him. But Jenny, this was a beautiful service. You did an outstanding job. But I'm Ron's little sister. And just gonna, talk to you girls. Or to Ron. This is the letter I kind of wrote to him. Dear Ron, what I'm gonna miss about you is seeing your name come across my phone screen, calling me to catch me up on all of the family. Me wondering, do I have enough time? Number 2, Cindy and Jenny calling right after to say, can you believe what your brother did today? You telling me every chance you got to quit being a vegetarian and just eat some meat, it would grow some hair on my chest. You playing John Denver songs, every one, and side by side, and pass it on incessantly on your beloved 6-string or your 12-string guitars. You taught me how to stand on my head and how to do gymnastics. You insisting I do karate with you like your hero Bruce Lee, and learning how to use nunchucks, though we would hit our heads constantly with the batons, and thank God you gave me the cushioned ones, you got the wood ones. And then Amy, we'd go to Chingasos, whatever that means. Me begging you for a horse and you giving me the parameters. I have $50 if you can find a horse for $50. And I scoured the for sale ads back in the day, kids. You actually had to look in a newspaper. And I found one. Little did I know it was blind and deaf and old, but Ronnie bought it for me. We named her Cinnamon, and we loved her, and he took care of her. You taking me to the matinees every Sunday. Little did I know we would go to the 1 o'clock. You'd buy me popcorn and soda and tell me to just sit there, and then we'd sit through the 3 o'clock, the 5 o'clock, the 7 o'clock, when we'd watch the Apple Dumpling Gang in every Disney movie. So I got the good. I didn't have to watch every karate show. We were the first official binge watchers. All the motorcycle rides on your Suzuki 90, even though I would burn my leg every time on the exhaust. You waiting for me to finish my eating so you could have all my leftovers. All of our family trips, going to Dollywood, and you insisting Dolly Parton would be there around every corner. I kept saying, Ron, she's not going to be here. No, we have to look for her. All of our trips to our beloved Colorado, where you and I hoped we would end up someday. In some ways, we were like my favorite cartoon characters, the Peanuts. You were Charlie Brown, my big brother, and I was Sally, your little sister, and we definitely had a Lucy. And you were Charlie Brown, and you just wanted to fit in, and you wanted to be loved, and you wanted to spread kindness. And just like Charlie Brown, you always kept trying to kick the football. In the past few weeks, the word worth has been thrown around or tossed about as a way to measure your value. But I want you to know, Big Brother, how invaluable you were to me. And as my great-nephew Brennan reminded me, the key to immortality is first living a life worth remembering by your hero, Bruce Lee. Ron, I will remember you. I will never forget you. And I have no doubt when you wake up, the first thing you're going to see is Jesus looking back at you. I feel bad I don't have a lot to say about Josh and Patricia because I'm pretty much taken over by my brother. But I'm so happy you're all here, and I'm happy how much you loved him too.
So my grandpa wasn't your ordinary grandpa. He was the really funny kind. And usually he would say, "Hey, Olivia, do you want to go do something?" And I would be like, "Sure." And it would end up being something not what I had imagined. This funny story that I only remember about him was this one day he asked me about if I wanted to go to some program. And I said, "Okay, sure." The next week later, it came and rolled around, and he said, "Hey, Olivia, remember last week that I asked you if you wanted to go to that program?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, why didn't you give me an answer?" And I said, "I did give you an answer. I said, yeah." And he's like, "Oh, then we better hurry." And as soon as we drive all the way across Lincoln, we go to this program, and I have lots of fun. As soon as I'm done with the program, he says, "Hey, Olivia, do you want to go to a Dairy Queen and maybe get some ice cream?" And I said, "Sure, but you're not getting any." As soon as we walk into the Dairy Queen, I say, "Can I get a large Blizzard?" And he's like, "You can't eat all of that. I'm gonna get you a small." And I said, "No, you're gonna get me a large, and that's that." Then as soon as I get the large, we go into the car. He says, "Hey, I'll give you $50 if I can have a bite." And I said, "Absolutely not." The day of my birthday party, he came, and we were all playing Mario Kart, and he was just sitting there. As soon as I opened my present, I got this cool leather jacket. And my mom said, "Hey, you better keep that, because that's probably like worth $100. April 3rd comes around, and I come back from a program that I went to with my friend. Everybody's at my house, and I go inside, everybody's sitting around in my living room. And my mom is crying on the floor. And my mom says, "Do you want to tell her?" And my aunt tells me, "Your Grandpa Ron, Aunt Patricia, and Uncle Josh have all died in a car accident." As soon as I process those words, all I can think of is, why did they die? All I can think of is my grandpa just sitting around eating some ice cream. And I did not imagine how that is how my grandpa's death would be. Me and my mom both thought he would be sitting in his deathbed, drinking chocolate milk and eating cake. But then he ended up ending like that.
Thank you all for being here. You know, it's very hard to talk about my grandpa without completely dying of laughter every time you think about a story from him. I remember how good of a grandpa he was. He'd take us to the park. He'd find a stranger to chat up for about 2 hours straight. And we were completely fine with it because we were at the park. But then when hour 3 rolled along, we'd talk to him, "Grandpa, it's time to go." And he would be talking to a stranger about a Gay Johnson story. And we were usually late for a dinner my grandma prepared. But he would forget about the dinner, and all of us would convince him to get us McDonald's. And because he was grandpa, he also wanted McDonald's. So we'd all go to McDonald's. We'd get our ice cream, our burgers, our chicken nuggets, go back to Grandma's house where she had a meal well prepared, and wondered why we were full, and then we would tattle on Grandpa. And Grandpa said, "I offered you 50 cents to hush up." We kept the 50 cents. If you've noticed any of the pictures up here, a lot of them he was eating. And that was because that was how he bonded with people. He would eat. He would cook. He would tell us we weren't putting enough flour in a certain meal. "You're not doing that right. Put more butter in it." And I think that was how he showed his love the most. He was there. He was involved. I remember our conversations with him. You know, he always had the biggest heart, not always the biggest brain, but that was okay. He cared. He cared about what we were doing. He cared what was happening in our lives, even if he wouldn't completely understand it. And then he would go back to talking about Gay Johnson again. But I loved him dearly. I can't think of a single person who had any malice towards him. He loved God. He loved John Denver. He was always shocked that none of us kids knew any John Denver songs. I'm going to miss him, and I think we all are. Thank you.
I kind of just want to start this off with this hat right here. This hat has a lot of significance to me now because one day Grandpa had called me and he asked if we wanted to hang out for the day. And I agreed, very reluctantly, but I agreed, and we went out and we went to McDonald's first off. We stocked up on food. I remember the whole time at McDonald's, he would, each and every time he ate, he'd put a napkin, tuck it into his shirt, and he'd garble down, and he was a very messy eater. I'm pretty sure a lot of people can vouch about that. There was food all over his face, his shirt, man. But I remember after the trip to McDonald's, we went to this big cowboy store. I forgot what it's called, but it's in Lincoln, and yeah, the Fort. And it was huge, and we walked around for a bit. And I remember I told him that I had to go to the bathroom before he left because we were just starting to head out. And I remember just before we head out, he asked if I wanted anything, and I told him there wasn't really much here for me. And we got out to the car, and I remember this hat right here was in the trunk, and he gave it to me right there, and I took it home, and I put it on my shelf. And I'm going to hold this hat very dearly to me now. This hat's has some large sentimental value to me now. I do want to say, though, one really funny memory that I have is I remember I would have been very little for this because, like, the details of the memory itself are very off because I was very young when it happened. But I remember me, Grandpa, and Uncle Josh, Burger King was having this $1 burger deal. And I kid you not, we stacked up on at least like 20 burgers or so. And we took them all home. And I kid you not, we just put them all on the table and we ate every single one of them. That was a very memorable moment. But my grandpa was really impactful to me. He taught me a lot of things. He told me a lot of stories. He showed me all of his interests. He was not afraid at all to show anyone any of his interests, and I think everyone here can vouch about that. But I feel like the best part of him, to me at least, was just his heart and him having the ability to reach out to anyone whenever, to check up on people, to see how people are doing, and just to see how people's days are going. And he had a very large heart, and it's really unfortunate that an event like this happened. And there were so many things he still wanted to do, so much food he still wanted to eat. But I think if there's one thing I want to take from this, it's that cherish the people around you. They're not going to be there forever. Every person isn't permanent. Everyone has a point in time where they will no longer be here. And I've never valued everything and everyone around me more dearly than after that.
Were there any others who wanted to share? And I can bring you the microphone if it's terrifying to come up here. Oh, there's one more. Okay.
I came today because these three were very special. I didn't even go to my own parents' memorial when they died, because I didn't go. But I came today because this family means a lot.
Thank you very much. Was there anyone else? I'd like to thank the family, everyone, for sharing those memories. Very, very special people. Of all the men I've met, Ron was one of the sweetest men that I've ever met. And yes, he liked to talk, And I love to hear his stories, and I heard him several times, sometimes the same story. I look forward to hearing those stories again someday soon. Well, I don't think we could end a gathering like this without hearing some John Denver. And so that will be our closing song, and then we'll have a closing prayer.